to another loquacious and lymphedemic episode of Diatribes with the voice of Boone. Here we go. Back at it again. Couple more for the road because I am leaving soon. I won't say what just yet. Let me just make sure the audio is good because I am habitually not doing that. Okay, so first thing, apparently my friends are actually watching these, so that makes it hard because I am such a great supporter of the federal government that it disgusts them. It's pretty unfortunate, I know. Also, that thing I said, like, a few videos ago when the guy, like, was a quadriplegic and he couldn't talk or hear or anything. That wasn't real. That was a poem or something. Whatever. Look, the fact is that must have happened to somebody, and, you know, they probably would have still wanted to live or die or whatever the moral is. Okay, look, so that's redacted. I wanted to talk about online therapy today because I really am just, like, dumbfounded by the idea. I feel like when you put all your eggs into one basket and that basket gets a hole in it, you tend to just question everything in life, and then, you know, people call it wokeism, and I just don't really like it. So, I feel like when we, like, use our devices on the daily, and I think I'm a good example because I used to do Instacart, and I used to, you know, work for this company where we were just constantly on our phones merchandising products for stores, and it was just weird. You really do change your mood when, you know, you're having, like, you're not working from it. Like, we use our phones, you know, to listen to music, to listen to podcasts, and so, you know, our minds are okay with being conditioned to think, oh, these are entertainment devices. And then you throw, you know, phone calls onto it, and that kind of puts a fly in the soup. That's why I feel like a lot of Gen Zs and millennials don't want to call anymore. They just want to use instant messaging because it's more naturalized, and they don't really have to psych themselves up because people somehow think that social anxiety is a bad thing, even though it's actually really healthy. And so you've got, you know, communications in there, and now people are starting to work from their phones, like DoorDash and Grubhub and you know, eBay, I don't know. They're working from their phones, and so now you're throwing work in there. And so now you're associating your phone with work and entertainment and music and communication. And so it ends up becoming your third appendage, or your third arm, I guess, or an extension of your arm. That's whatever. And I don't think the human brain is meant to handle that sort of thing. I really don't. I mean, I don't really know too much about conditioning, but I know that, you know, given enough time, you know, you can really screw up your day-to-day life if you change, you know, how you're processing all the things that you enjoy doing. You know, if you're working from your phone and you're, you know, trying to watch a video on your phone and, you know, you think of work, then all of a sudden you're associating your phone with work. And I don't know, I think association is just one of the, you know, it's how the cookie crumbles when it comes to psychology. I really do. So now we're throwing online therapy into it. Now, this is just the tip of the iceberg. I really don't think that people should be associating their phone with therapy. I feel like it's way too much. That's the straw that broke the camel's back, or the camel that broke the straw's back. And I just don't think that people are capable of you know, disassociating their phone from how they work, from, you know, or like how they clock in, or how they view, you know, Instagram, or, you know, how they pay for their stuff because now that's their credit card. I don't know. It sounds like way too much with something that also brings a lot of negativity in your life. We're looking at a huge downpour of depression and, like, self brought upon mental insecurities in this generation because of social media. I feel like when a person spends their entire day scrolling through TikTok and Snapchat and just seeing other people live their life while they're laying in bed, wishing that they could get stuff done, but they just don't have the motivation, you're not helping yourself by going through online therapy in order to receive those types of resources and mindfulness in order to get motivated. You're I don't know, you're fanning the flames with like, I don't know, you're fanning the flames with a water hose, I think. I mean, you could be doing something great, but you're using the tool in a really wrong way for something that really is not helping. Now, I went to therapy, I mean, I saw a therapist rather. It was mainly just talking about, life in general and feeling a little bit down about, plethora of subjects and just trying to find the mindfulness to not sweat the small stuff, yada, 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 really just cliche stuff. I didn't go for any, particular reason. I mean, it was more rather just my own curiosity and not really having the gumption to want to seek out really expensive resources. So, after a while, here's the thing about therapists that I was told by my friend, you really can't be told how to solve your internal dilemmas by a therapist. A therapist is supposed to guide you toward that answer, but if they just outright tell you, then you might be insecure about it or, not exactly take the advice as your own. But I don't know, I guess human beings have this habit where if we come up with a great idea, it's even greater than if someone else were to tell us. So something to that prideful egoism. And during, actually going to those not seminars, those one-on-ones, I don't know, after a while I just kind of came to the conclusion that I was just really bored in life. I mean, I was working from my phone. I really wasn't making that much money. I was, really just, it was a it was really flexible, make your own schedule sort of gig. And so your motivation to actually make a whole lot of money is even more downsized because you feel kind of gifted in a way to be able to just make your own schedule to the point where, even if I don't make that much money, it's fine because ultimately I have something that not a lot of people do, which is, my money works for me, not the other way around. I choose the pace at which I make my income and this and that. It's all bull crap. You should really just get a 9 to 5. I learned that later. Work on yourself and, your off time. But ultimately, if you want to make money or if you're trying to make some sort of security for yourself, then you need to work regularly. You can't. I feel like these self-paced jobs are just kind of an excuse for people to really not have to worry about their direction because ultimately it's well, I'm still working. But I'm able to play video games whenever I want and, binge TV shows and all that. It's just not, it's not detrimental. So I felt like I was just in a really, dull state of my life, like I said, with working from the phone and being able to work self-paced, ultimately not really seeking out any sort of values other than, occasionally, getting into a show or, making some art or, talking to new people, which is really not that hard to do. And I think that as a youth, generation, I think our comfort zones are actually slowly getting smaller. And so, it feels harder and harder to go outside of it because, you just, once you go outside of it, you're worried that it's going to actually expand. And so you won't, feel as engaged with the things that used to make you happy. That's what I think people worry about when they go outside their comfort zone. It's not the idea of failure. It's the idea of succeeding and that they have to, come up with that same standard over and over, for something that they really just aren't interested in doing that much. So I went through that, I guess. And at some point I just decided, or I straight up asked her, or I didn't ask her, but I kind of just, told her, it's I don't really feel like I need therapy. I feel like I'm just bored. I feel like, I just really need a hobby or some kind of kick in the pants to make me really value life more, and she pretty much totally agreed without, being over expository about it, and I think that she was kind of passively telling me that a lot of people struggle with that, it's oh, you can never not benefit from therapy, and that's a little bit of a cop-out because, therapy takes a long time. We didn't even really get into the process of skill building or mindfulness. We just kind of talked, or she rather analyzed a lot of my words, really took into account just all the different things that I focused on throughout my day-to-day life. And and ultimately, I think at the end of the day, she agreed that I wasn't in the type of like mindset to require overcoming something through therapy. For lack of a better way of saying that, in the nicest way possible. I think that we both kind of agreed that I didn't need to be there. So I stopped. And ultimately, I really, through it's been like a year, no, 2 years, yeah. And I mean, first of all, men's frontal lobes, which actually control the emotional maturity of our brains, don't mature until we're 25. For women, it's 21. That's the average, but still. You really do just have to live life and get older in order to pretty much be okay with your situation, or rather have the boldness to get into something better. You really do just need to take the bull by the horns and not really undersell yourself thinking, oh, if I just had therapy, or oh, if I just had this person in my life, or if I didn't struggle with this so much, I would be successful. And this is starting to turn into one of those Matthew McConaughey yogi like motivational speeches. But I'm not trying to. I feel like this is just really basic things that people should know. Is like you shouldn't inherently seek out therapy just because you're unhappy with your life. You should just, try what you can. And if you feel like you're not, just generally happy with your situation, that probably means that you're either more so under-challenged, you're bored, which is just another way of saying that, or you don't have the time to focus on what really matters, which is like probably one of the hardest ones, I think. So I feel like you can't do any of that through online therapy. I think in order to feel like vulnerable enough, in order to tell a person what it is that you're exactly thinking of, or the struggles that you've been able to surpass, you won't be able to do so over your phone through instant messaging or through emails or through even phone calls, in my opinion. Even when you have like some sort of auditory stimulation from those specialists, I'm not even sure if being a doctor is a requirement. My therapist wasn't a doctor. She had her master's degree. I thought she was a doctor for the longest time, but ultimately she did not have a PhD. So, and she had been working in social work for a very long time. So I think that should say something about, actually having an education level versus having the experience enough. That gets into a different subject. Anyways, you can't receive the benefits of actual therapy through online therapy. You're too comfortable with your phones. We associate them with too many things besides, mental health. And I don't think that people can be weak in front of their phones. And even if they did, I don't think that it offers the same amount of challenge as real therapy. I wholeheartedly think there are entities within at least the American government that are incentivized to put as many students and young adults and regular adults into these programs for, psychological help and mental health and emotional health, because that's what keeps their lights on. That's what keeps their building justifiable for the government to keep, because they feel like, oh, if we help people mentally, then we'll see more people working and raising tax money and staying out of our prison system and yada yada yada. But ultimately, I feel like it's one of those things where you're using a fire hose as like a fan blade, and you're whipping it around to fan the flames. You're using the tool for the wrong thing, and I think that people are now using their self-diagnosable mental illnesses as an excuse to not do what they want to do, which by all means, not everyone is supposed to have these big dreams of being like a successful rapper or TV star or a doctor or a lawyer or something. Some people really just are okay with working at Walmart or Target, or being a just regular Joe Schmo mechanic or a contractor or something kind of more blue collar, and just having a family and maybe having a little bit of extra money, but ultimately not really striving for a life full of greatness and glory. So, yeah, sure. I mean, that makes everyone else who does want to do that have less competition, of course. And at the end of the day, it really is just what you value. However, I think that I don't think anyone in the world should go out of their way to limit themselves because they feel like they need therapy, especially those thinking that, they can solve their therapy through online programs, because we are simply our brains are simply too advanced to fall for that kind of foolishness. And I believe that in order to really get to the root of the problem, we need to look inward and think about what really matters, and think and imagine if we are actually capable of being the person that we want to be, instead of talking about them through therapy sessions, which are futile. So, that's my 2 cents. I really just I'm not a psychologist, obviously, but I do have a very high interest in the field. I think that no matter who you are, if we had to cut out every single program in high school and middle school, we should definitely keep psychology, because I think that subject alone would cause a lot of students to seek out other things. Just being able to understand, how we think and how we feel, and in a way why we do what we do. But that gets into anthropology. So I'll cut it here. Thanks for watching. Stay positive.